It is Sunday school, and I've got a lamp out today, and I've got the hermit card. And I'm going to talk just briefly about what these two things have in common, because on many, there's something in my lamp. Well, maybe that's tomorrow's class if there is one. Anyway, it's Sunday school. And when I was a kid in Columbus, Nebraska, we moved there in 1955. And in 1956, our little town had its centennial. And many of the men in town dressed up in 1856 clothes and grew their beards and grew their mustaches. And a lot of the women went around in like pioneer clothes and stuff for the whole year. It was a big thing. And I was 7 years old and bored out of my mind. Okay, I'd moved from Lakewood, California, which was at the time a kind of a cutting edge in music and West Coast hipness and the beach and things like that. And Columbus, Nebraska was pretty much still almost pre-World War II consciousness and stuff. It had electricity and it had indoor plumbing and stuff, but in many parts of town, it hadn't had it for very long. My relatives out in the country still had a crank telephone, and still had an outhouse and things like that. But I was pretty bored, and my mother knew that I was a high-strung, crazy, moody, pouty little kid, and so she became active in the Methodist Church and baking things for people and singing in the church choir, and so she was a church lady, and at that time she didn't need to work or have a job, so she was very active in the church. See, this is a Sunday school story, and so she enrolled me, if you will, in the children's choir called the Carol Choir, and who serenaded the service on Sunday morning, early service, and my mother sang in the choir in the later service. And so I had to go to Sunday school too. Okay, and but something else she volunteered me to do was to come in on Saturday mornings. Now, this was the church was already almost 100 years old, and it smelled like a 100-year-old church. I mean, in a good way. And it really had a lot of vibes, good vibes to it, especially when you were alone in the church. And she volunteered me to come in on Saturday mornings, even before children's choir rehearsal, and I would fold the bulletins and the responsive readings for the next day's service. So yeah, I don't know. I had to fold like 200 things, and sometimes I had to stuff things in them, things. But I got to be alone. I got to be alone, and there was a little chapel area of this old, creaky, wooden, haunted church. And I got to be all alone with God. And it felt like I was all alone with God. But even at 7 years old, I was pretty much an atheist. And so, like the old joke from the movie The Working Class, where Peter O'Toole says, he tells people, "I'm God." And so, how do you know you're God? He says, because when I finally realized that when I pray to God, I'm only praying, I'm talking to myself. That's kind of what the conclusion I came to in that old haunted church, okay? And I liked it, okay? I liked sacredness. Didn't like the church, especially, or didn't like the Bible stories. It just freaked me out. And of course, Sunday school was a monstrous, non-stop, wall-to-wall, bigoted, racist indoctrination or attempted indoctrination. It was nightmarish. But I liked the God, the me, and I liked the way it felt. And I've said this a million times, and of course the pastor had a beautiful young wife, and they lived next door in the parsonage. And I said, this is the life for me. Just, you work on Saturdays typing up a sermon, and you go visit people and make them feel good, and you help them die, and you help them get when they're sick, and you marry them, and you get to dress up in a cool robe and march in on Sunday. That's cool. I think I want to be a Methodist minister. Big problem is I don't believe in God. Be that as it may, this aloneness, this profound aloneness, is kind of what I want to talk about today when I talk about the hermit and the self-identity of the stage of one's life and one's spiritual evolution or progress, if you want to call it that, or unfoldment, when you don't so much identify as a worshiper, and you don't so much identify as a priest or a pastor of a flock, and you don't identify anymore as an ecstatic mystic, but you get to the point, you go through all of those, you certainly go through all of those, but finally it dawns on you the profundity of the holy personage of the hermit. And in the Book of the Law, Crowley says there's 3 grades: the hermit, the lover, and the man of earth. And in the Crowley designed the initiatory order of the O.T.O with 3 major grades. I mean, there's lots of degrees, because it was originally structured along kind of a Masonic degree scaffolding. So there's many degrees, but there's only 3 grades. All of those degrees are divvied up with these 3 grades. And the earliest grade is the man of earth. And the way the order was set up is most people that join the O.T.O as a society and a fellowship of you know, Thelemites. Most people stay in the man of earth triad. That's where most of the early work is done. And so that's a big triad. And the second is the lover's triad, which is sort of corresponds to that ecstatic mystic level. And then finally, and it's always meant to be only, for people that it's not a climb up a ladder, which I'll say, but it's an inward thing, and it's not that the organization says, "Oh, you're that and you're that." No, you say you're that. It's truly mystical, and well, anyway. Here's a little piece of what I wrote at an O.T.O event in Detroit a few years ago, at least part of it. Learn then that our holy order has but 3 true grades, as it is written in the book of the law: the hermit, the lover, and the man of earth. And I ask for a show of hands. How many of us in this room are in the man of earth triad? And lots of hands went up. How many of this room are in the lover's triad? Well, quite a few raised their hands. How many of us in this room are comfortable revealing the fact that you are a hermit? Now, I say it that way because it's nobody's damn business. So you're not obliged to say, hey, I'm a hermit. Well, who the fuck are you talking to if you're so alone? So don't go around, are you a hermit? Okay. I'm a hermit. My wife is a hermit. Some of my best friends are hermits. Hermits are funny. Funny, haha, sometimes, as in, he's so funny. But mostly disturbingly funny. Like, uh-oh, there's something funny going on. Or, do you smell something funny? For those newer members here today who have mercifully not yet become obsessed with dissecting and arguing about the nature and structure of the O.T.O, I'll point out that these 3 true grades encompass about a dozen individual degrees, some of which contain multiple subdegrees. It generally takes many years to move from 0 degrees to 9th degree, and the attrition rate is breathtaking and at first glance very depressing. But the initiatory adventure of the O.T.O degrees is not a climb up a ladder. I'm afraid to say that those who see it as such will eventually become sadly discouraged. Initiation is not a journey upward. It is a journey inward. And for you lucky few who for one reason or another will come to realize that all the triads and all the ordeals that come along with your membership in this most magical of magical orders are not flaws in the system. that all the crazy politics and the heartbreaks and the romance and the pains and the ass and the ecstasy and the confusion, and I might add the stupidity of fellow human beings in the order, and all the stupidity and bullshit that your O.T.O experience will most assuredly heap upon your life, that all this magical crap is just a metaphor, an allegorical movie of all the inner trials and tribulations affecting your own unique and private spiritual metamorphosis. For those of you who can manage to link and sequence your outward and mundane O.T.O career, and I might add, any organization that you might belong to thinking it's the key to your spiritual progress. For those who can manage to link and sequence your outward mundane O.T.O career with your inward initiatory ordeals, for those of you who will eventually realize that the slings and arrows of your personal outrageous fortunes are really the weapons of the initiating officers of your own evolving soul. For you lucky few who will somehow survive the magical boot camp of the man of earth, those of you who will reach for and finally seize the Holy Grail, who will know the secret of love and then be consumed utterly by that love, you lucky few will awaken to the fact that the great order has always been and will always be forevermore an order of one. And that one is you. And this awakening will spark a flame that will burn like a million suns. That fire, that radiance is the hermit's lamp. And it will be all that you are. It'll be the only magical weapon you will have or need. That light will be all you will be able to give to your brothers and sisters. Your only gift to the world, who have still to awaken to their aloneness. Your only true contribution to life, or the life you are a part of, and to those who have yet to be initiated into the order of one. And will any of your brothers and sisters see and appreciate that light? Will any of them use that light to find their way to their own hermit's mountaintop? Some will. Some won't. Either way, the hermit says, I don't care. And that's it for Sunday School today. I'll see you tomorrow. Continue to be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.